What is that line? Oh my God!
On a corner. They're going to kill someone.
What was that line?
Literally, like, swerved out into the oncoming traffic mid-corner.
Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today I'm joined by Dan from Wheels Australia, and we're going to be looking at these two punchy hot hatches. We've shot a comprehensive review on both of these cars over on the Wheels Australia YouTube channel, so please check that out. There's a link in the description below. It's a really good channel as well, so consider subscribing. Dan seems like a nice enough bloke. He has got an Australian accent, but he was born here, so you can kind of understand what he's talking about.
Joe, thanks so much for having me. I am just about over the jet lag, so hopefully I can string sentences together again. Two great cars as well. The thing is though, I recognise that badge, but what's that?
Well, yes, so you don't get Cupra in Australia yet, do you?
No, but it's coming.
It is coming. And yeah, obviously it's part of the Volkswagen group, if you like. They've been around here for about 3 years in the UK, and I'm a big fan of their brand. I like what they do. I like the way they style their cars. They've even got a unique model called the Formentor, which I've had on my channel recently. But this is based on the same platform as the Audi S3 cars like the Golf R.
They are very similar mechanically. Styling, they've gone a very different direction.
Yep.
We got to get into these and find out what's different, what we like about them, what we can expect in Australia when they arrive. The only thing I'm slightly confused about though is I thought if we were going to be doing a video together, it was probably going to be on a BMW.
Ah, yeah, well, to be honest, I did actually drive down here in a BMW just out of camera over there.
True to form.
True to form, yeah. There's never a BMW too far away from me. But today I thought, you know, I'd break the mold and yeah, find myself in one of these. But I'm going to be really interested to see what your take is on both of these cars, because believe it or not, Australia don't even have, or they're just getting now, this new A3 that we've had over here for nearly a year or so, I think, and the S3's been around for 6 or 8 months. So it'd be interesting to see your input and hear your input on both cars. Okay, well, before our beautiful August English summer changes too much more, I think we should get in the cars and yeah, and see what they're all about.
Let's get stuck into it.
Yeah, perfect. We've started in the Cupra Leon 300, a car that Dan and Australia really aren't very familiar with whatsoever. Now, we've just finished filming a really good comparison video of this and the S3, which we will jump into shortly and I will drive. So please do make sure you head over to the Wheels YouTube channel. Like I said, link below, and check that video out because it was informative, entertaining and fun. Really.
Well, I couldn't have been involved with it in any way then, if it did all those things.
Oh, speaking on my behalf.
Yeah, that's why I've chosen to work with you.
We're really lucky, especially here in the UK. We've got a very saturated hot hatch market. There's so much to choose from in the price range of, let's say, 30 to 40 odd thousand pounds. And even within the Volkswagen group, we have a massive variety. We have obviously the Volkswagen GTI, GTI Club Sport, and we have the Golf R, and we have the Audi S3, we now have the Cupra as well. So that's a very interesting subject, which we will get onto because it's weird in terms of hierarchy and where they all sit in terms of price points. But I think we should talk a little bit about the Australian market, because I find that market fascinating. You guys tend to pay a bit more than we do, especially on German cars for luxury car tax reasons, especially when you go up in the price, like RS6s and stuff like that. But in terms of your hot hatch market, where does it all sit? What's a favourite hot hatch of Australia? What do you guys rate as Wheels Australia?
It's a really strange anomaly in the Australian market because obviously culturally speaking and historically, we've always been a nation of big rear-wheel drive sedans with V8 engines at the front.
Yep.
So quite why the hot hatch does so well, and it does, when the small hatchback segment is kind of in remission. It used to be the #1 selling segment, Toyota Corolla versus Hyundai i30. That was the top selling car from one month to the next in Australia. Not anymore, it's now 1-ton utes. But the hot hatches, the high performance end of each of those segments, continues to do really well. And I don't really understand why. It's obviously because we have a huge conglomerate of car enthusiasts and driving enthusiasts. The cars that typically do really well Golf GTI, as you're probably not surprised to hear.
Yep.
But a more recent newcomer that is absolutely smashing it for good reason is the Hyundai i30N. Now, we were talking before, and I told you what the price of an i30N in Australia is, and you nearly, I mean, it's not repeatable what you said.
I can't believe that you pay, what is it for an i30N?
Just over $40,000, so around about very roughly £20,000. It started when it launched under 40 grand, it's 39,900.
And to put that into comparison, what do you pay for the current or the outgoing Audi S3?
About $65,000.
So that car's $25,000 more expensive than the Hyundai, and over here it's about £1,500 more expensive, maybe £2,000. And I know there might be a few spec changes here and there, but it's just amazing because I think the i30N over here is a very good value hot hatch. It sells very well. People rave about it for the right reasons.
Yeah.
But yet it can still get away with being 36 grand or whatever, which is basically the same price as this and the S3 we're about to jump in. So it's amazing that that it has a place in the market over here, even though it shares the same price point. Whereas in Australia, I mean, to me, that's almost a no-brainer if it's that kind of money. $40,000, £20,000 for that car. It's just unreal.
We're talking about this car that isn't on sale in Australia yet. We're trying to speculate and work out where it's going to sit with its pricing.
Yep.
And obviously it's a challenger brand. We don't have Cupra. We haven't had Fiat for many, many years. So it's going to come in and try and win an audience. It can't afford to be too expensive because no challenger brand can.
No.
But when you're going up against an established brand like Hyundai that's proven it can make one of the best hot hatches in the world, and it's 40 grand, well, how can a car like this succeed?
No idea.
So back to the car that we're in.
Yes.
So this is yet another car to roll on the MQB platform.
Yep.
Is that family of high performance hatchbacks getting a little bit too crowded? Is there room for yet another?
It's an interesting question, and one I have asked myself a lot especially since this was launched, and especially since you can buy this in an estate version, but then that has the all-wheel drive platform that the Golf R and the S3 have, but then a little bit more power, and they've all got the same EA 888 engine, slightly different power tunes, and I don't know. It is because it's different to the others, as we talked about in your video. You know, it's a very stylish interior. It's kind of made for a slightly different market, I think. But just all of these, where do they all sit? You know, I think I've been told the Volkswagen Group, at least here in the UK, say that the Cupra brand sits above the Volkswagen brand, but below the Audi brand. Okay, so
but how? I mean,
yeah, how does that work?
I mean, on the one hand, I think the Cupra brand has a really good thing going for it, and that is it doesn't have a legacy that has that hold.
Yes.
There's no real, so especially in Australia, where you've had Fiat ongoing for many, many years, but in Australia we haven't. So this new brand has come along. They have a completely open sandbox. They can do whatever they like.
Yep.
Because there's no branding existing that they threaten damaging or
Yep.
compromising.
Yep.
And it's to a certain extent, it's the same here. Cupra now is a standalone brand. But it also plays against them because they're coming into a new market. They don't have anything, they don't really have any heritage to say, look at these Le Mans races we won, or look at these famous racing drivers that we won. You know, that's their challenge, I think.
All very confusing. But I think what we should do now is jump in the S3.
Yeah.
And talk about what that is as a hot hatch, because I really think that is one of the best sort of packages available today on sale, and it's not something I've ever said about an S3 in the past. Listen to that 5-cylinder, mate. Huh?
5? Hang on, have we accidentally got into an RS3?
I think so, yeah, it definitely sounds like it.
That's one of my favourite bit of engine sound augmentation. It's quite convincing.
It is, and it gets more convincing the more time you spend in these, which is weird because that is usually the opposite to fake engine sound, isn't it? This car is, I'm smiling now, and I've driven plenty of these. I've spent a lot of time in the S3, and I actually really enjoy this car. And we've talked about this on your video and kind of summarised that yes, ultimately the Cupra is They're more engaging and slightly better on the limit, I guess, driver's car for the driver. But this thing, I really think, at least here in the UK for the price of these are 38 grand base price. It's a brilliant package for £38,000.
That's a lot of car for your cash. And I love, like, getting into the S3 is like meeting an old friend. You know, there's a sense of familiarity about it. You know where you're at straight away.
Yes.
It's comfortable, it's practical, but this one has that decent dose of performance. And I totally agree with what you're saying in the previous video, that they've absolutely aced the balance of performance and practicality now. It's a really great car that stands alone and not in the shadow of the RS3 anymore.
100%, yeah, and that's the thing, isn't it? The RS3's always been a massive step above in terms of presence and everything. And although the new RS3 is going to have more aggressive styling and it's definitely going to undoubtedly look better, but the S models have never been about that. People always complain that, you know, oh, maybe it doesn't look special enough. But S models in my head have always been the car that has most of the performance that an RS model's got, but it just flies under the radar and does it in a very cool, understated way.
There's a few people that criticise the RS3 in its previous generation for not looking aggressive enough.
Right, okay.
And that is a good criticism for two reasons. One, I agree, it didn't look particularly aggressive. If you like wolf in sheep's clothing, that's probably fine. But also, because it wasn't very aggressive, it didn't put enough distance between it and this.
Yes.
And so this kind of got a little bit lost. Now this is kind of evolved a little bit. It's still understated, but the new RS3 will look absolute, like, crazy.
Yeah.
I think it's going to do them both a big favour.
100%. Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. Traction for days.
Yeah, I mean, classic Quattro recipe of unfaltering grip, especially in conditions like this. It's just fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the best thing is it will do that over and over again.
Over and over again.
A lot of cars with launch control and big power units in the front, they'll bring up a light after about 3 and say, nah, take me to a dealership or at least let me cool down.
Yes.
This will do it all day long.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. And there's no getting away from the fact that, 4.8 seconds to 60, probably 4.5 in the real world, because they're always very conservative with their figures, and that's quick. But, you know, that's, as we talked about in your video, it's more about when you're on the move that you feel the performance of the cars, and ultimately the Cupra, with the less sort of drivetrain loss and the less weight, the lower weight, it feels a little bit quicker on the move.
Yeah.
But this is, you know, every bit quick enough for most scenarios. You know, you're immediately up to the speed limit and just feels great. It puts a smile on your face, which is the most important thing, in something that's never happened to me with S3s of the past. So very good. What I want to ask you, Dan, is if you could have any hot hatch on sale today, what would you pick, and a quick summary of why?
Oh, that's an incredibly difficult question to answer. It should be the Honda Civic Type R.
Yes.
I think in terms of engagement and raw ability, it's the best front-wheel drive car I've ever driven.
Yep.
It just excels in virtually every way, except I couldn't stand to look at it.
No.
You know what I mean? It's just, if you get it in black, it hides some of those ostentatious, unnecessary bits and pieces. But in that new turbo blue or whatever it is, it just highlights them all. And I'm sorry, I've tried to get my head around that aesthetic, but I can't. So for that reason, it would probably be the Hyundai i30N.
Oh, okay.
It's almost as good from a driving perspective. It's actually quicker around the track in some of our testing.
Yeah.
And I think it's one of the prettiest on sale as well. Get it in that lovely Hyundai N blue.
Yes.
And I'd probably be happy all day long. But you said on sale. Obviously, the best hot hatch in the world was my Fiat Uno Turbo I owned.
Of course.
It was simultaneously the best and the worst hot hatch in the universe. If you parked outside the shops on a wet day, you come back and there'd be a pile of brown powder where you left it. The doors rung and rattled as all the rust fell out. It was dreadful, but I love it. It's still the best hot hatch I've ever driven.
I think the GTI Club Sport is ultimately the most exciting hot hatch I've driven recently. and I know that you haven't driven one, but I think it's brilliant. The only problem with that, and with all of the Golfs and the Cupra and stuff, that would eventually end up driving me up the wall, is the infotainment system, which isn't that reliable, and I don't like the way it works and the way it operates, and I don't like the massive big screen, and so just those little things would slowly over time eat away at me.
They do.
So I'd sacrifice some of that for this interior, which I really, really like. Yes, there's some cheaper plastics in here, but fundamentally it's an Audi. Everything's well put together. Even the cheaper plastics are well screwed in. And cabin wise, it's great. Seats are brilliant, driving position's good. It's nice and spacious in here, with the roof especially. The ride's fantastic, so as a daily it's brilliant, and I think that's the real recipe for a hot hatch. Is it's got to do two things very well. It's got to do your daily and your family or whatever duties very well. It's got to be comfortable when you want it to be comfortable, or relatively comfortable, not just, you know, shake your bones, but it's also got to be fun, and that's what this new S3's got. It's got fun, and I remember the first time I drove it, I really, really liked it, and the same on this drive over the last couple of days. It's just been brilliant. So I think, and I'm not just saying it because we're in this, but I really think that for 40 odd grand, this is the best hot hatch out there as an overall package. It really is. It's got everything you need, and yeah, I'd quite happily own and run one of these. So there you go.
You wouldn't have to twist my arm hard to do the same either.
Oh, okay, there you go. Yeah, well, that's the thing. And isn't it a great world that we live in today, great climate that we live in the sense that we're spoiled for choice, and there's not really a horrific or bad choice out there. There's lots of good ones. Exactly
right. Yeah, I mean, people throw around that expression of there's no bad cars anymore. There are, because I've driven a Haval H2. So it's absolutely not true. But I think that's absolutely true when you come to hot hatches. It's such a fearsomely competitive market, and they're offered so much less forgiveness for making small errors in their development that they all have to be really bloody good.
Exactly, yeah. It's a really polished segment, isn't it? It really is. That's well priced. Well, I hope that has been a good chat and a good summary. As I said at the beginning of the video, please make sure you head over to Wheels Australia YouTube channel using the link below to check out the video that we shot. Also make sure you consider subscribing to those guys because their content's really good. If you like Dan, he'll be on there. No, jokes aside, it's been really, really cool meeting you and getting on. Yeah, we've got a real bromance going on.
We totally have. I live on the other side of the world. I think we're going to have to make time to do some more of these, Joe. It's been such a laugh. Yeah. Absolutely love your work. I'm honoured to have been part of one of your projects, so thank you so much.
No, I appreciate it, man. Thank you very much. You. Yeah, and I'll hopefully see you out in Australia in the next year or so, depending on how the the world sorts itself out. But but yeah, big up yourself.
Chapter 2, watch this space.
Chapter 2, yeah, absolutely. Cheers guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you at the next one.